Did You Have To is a proud member of the But Why Though podcast community.
Welcome back to Did You Have To, the podcast where two bad bitches talk about anime. And here are your hosts, Kate and Nisha. Yeah! Nisha's quirk, stress ball. By internalizing her stress about the world being in chaos and crime, she converts that stress into a superpower, becoming a badass. Kate's quirk, waifu warrior. By just watching her favorite shows, she can manifest real or fictional characters into the real thing. They come to life and fight by her side. Not every character does it, though. She has to find the individual really hot. Yeah!
Hey everyone, welcome back to Did You Have To? And we're going to get really sad today and talk about Japan sinks. I'm Kate.
And I'm Nisha, and I'm also depressed.
Yup.
I have not felt this depressed about an anime since, which ironically, Devilman Crybaby, in the same studio that did Devilman Crybaby, did Japan Sinks. So it all makes sense.
They're here to hurt us. That's all it is.
Oh, good God. I don't know about you, but I made the terrible mistake of watching it all in one night.
Yeah, I didn't do that. I went ahead and let myself breathe a little bit. So Japan Sinks 2020 does not let you breathe at all. But before we get into the depression, maybe we should do a little bit of a Today in Weeb.
Yeah, let's do that. So I'm happy. Do you have any happy Today in Weeb news that we can I don't know, alleviate some of the depression we're going to get into with this episode?
So I don't have too much news other than that I am genuinely just excited that it looks like a lot more Shonen Jump titles are getting anime adaptation. So I know people listening probably know that Jujutsu Kaisen is getting their anime adaptation, but I just found out that Act Age, and this is old news, but
That's right.
Act Age is getting an anime adaptation, which I'm really excited for. Because I really, really, really like Act Age. It's really good. It's a very different kind of shonen than what you would typically think would come from the SJ label, but I'm really excited for it. And I think there have been rumors that Chainsaw Man is also going to be making it up there because apparently people are in love with that one, but
okay,
we'll see.
I don't think I've heard of that one, but I'm intrigued immediately.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that I'm really happy about, because I think one of the things that I've been kind of figuring out is like where we're going to land with the next era. And I don't want to say next era, but like continuing the Shonen Jump like anime,
Right.
just because Demon Slayer is going to be ending. We don't know what's happening with My Hero, but My Hero has already solidified itself in the fields. I mean, I'm personally interested in seeing new IPs coming out, not new IPs, but just like stuff outside of Shonen Jump getting more traction on places like Crunchy with their whole webtoon stuff, as well as Netflix's anime.
Right.
So I'll be really interested to see what the landscape of anime looks like now, because it does seem like it's moved. Because for a really long time, Shonen Jump adaptations were kind of just the only type of anime that the West really got. And so now with all of these other brands contributing to it, I'm really excited to see where that goes. So it's less a news portion of Today in Weeb and more of a like, I've just been thinking a lot about all the new titles that can and would be coming. And I can say, at least from what we've been watching on from Crunchyroll's work with Webtoon, I'm fucking excited for any new webtoon stuff coming out anywhere, because Tower of God and God of High School
I know.
have been phenomenal. Yeah,
they're so good. And yeah, like, and we get like, since Crunchyroll made that exclusive deal with webtoons, there's so much more coming, which love Shonen Jump, raised on it because, you know, Dragon Ball and all other, like you said, we are children of the 90s and Toonami, and that's the stuff we were given and had access to. But It's exciting to see like a lot of original stories from Crunchyroll. I mean, from
Yeah.
webtoons getting anime on Crunchyroll, and I think that's awesome because I talk about it all the time. I love webtoons, and I'm really excited about, which it's not news, but it's like Lore Olympus is going to be they keep going back saying it's going to be adult animation and anime. So I'm just like, I don't care either way. I get to see my webtoons and I get to see them as sexy hot gods.
And that's all that matters.
That's all that matters. And then Kate will learn why we love Hades, and like he's our big blue daddy. But I guess for my today, that's not my today and weep. But my today and weep is that Agretzko season 3 is coming back. Yes, so hyped. August 27th, our little angry rage baby girl is back.
I love her so much, and I can't wait.
I just feel so seen when I see her rage out and just be all the little aggressions from work, and I'm like, this is cathartic. Watching Agretzko is so cathartic and nice.
It really, really is. I think another Today and Weeb, which is less a Today and Weeb, more of a like, why have I not known that Itsuko was a dope like anime streetwear band that like I had no idea existed. But I guess the actual news there is, Neysha, how much money have you spent on their brand new Berserk line?
I'm really trying to not spend anything, but I did go ahead and like drop $80. I'm trying to do better, I swear, but like fall's coming, and don't y'all want me to be happy in my long sleeve crew neck of guts?
I want those joggers, if I'm honest.
Right? Oh my god, those joggers
are nice.
Those joggers with like a bunch of my Adidas shoes. I can get so much traction out of these clothes, because where are we going? Nowhere. But we want to look nice around the house.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I bought the Godzilla and Megan Thee Stallion hoodies so I can wear at home when we don't turn on the heat, because we're in Texas and there's no point.
True. But no, I feel like you I think I've vaguely been aware of Atsuko, but like I did not know about the Berserk line, and now I have problems. Not good problems, but they have so many great lines, and like I love anime streetwear. Yeah.
And I think like the one, not that because I found it out because somebody on Twitter told me, and it's a toss up as to who, and I'm forgetting who, but I got added in a few of their stuff, and I was like, oh, yo, this is so good, because they have an entire, they have a joint, I guess, collaboration with Funimation. So they have like really cool Yu Yu Hakusho stuff, and then they have so much MHA stuff. And I did a poll to see if I should buy one of the Bakugo long sleeves. So I'm going to be getting one of those, because they have. I have the My Hero X Sanrio long sleeve top that has Bakugo and Badatsmaru on the back, but they have one that has them on the front. So
different.
It's different.
I understand. I get it. And they're fire. See, we could talk about them all day. Like they got a Fire Force line, and I'm just gonna keep putting like maybe $20 a week away a month for the next 3 months, and then I'll go like have a nice shopping spree on their website, so that I can get everything I want in one bulk order, so I can chill out.
I've at least gotten to the point where Matt just accepts that I'm gonna buy stuff, which is great, because he's like, yeah, we're not spending anything on else. Fine, we have extra. Go buy yourself some anime husbands, because I did get my Roy Mustang statue finally. But I can't push it by buying an $80 bomber jacket with Bakugo on the back of it.
Listen, I think I'm gonna go ahead and do it. I think I'm gonna go ahead and buy that All Might bomber jacket.
Oh, that one's
I'm tempted. You know, I've seen some Fire Force ones. I think I'm due for an anime bomber jacket. I might treat myself. But again, I'll buy that in my anime streetwear shopping spree. Oh, we need to become ambassadors. Somebody hit us up.
I know. If you're listening to this episode, right now, you should tweet at Atsuko and tell them that they should sponsor me and Nisha on Did You Have To? Because we will spend money on them and we will convince everybody else to. Because it's real good. Like that line is just real good. Like I don't know.
It's affordable. Like, and no shade, but shade the coach. It's like ex Naruto, whatever that was. But like that's my biggest pet peeve.
Michael B. Jordan showing that he only cared about celebrities buying that.
Pretty much. Like I love Michael B. Jordan, but I was like, bruh, this Naruto shirt is the same shirt I could get from like a bunch of streetwear. What is so special about this anime shirt except for Michael B. Jordan is promoting it, which I get it.
Michael B. Jordan made a line that only him and John Boyega could afford, and I feel like that was targeted just so they could be like the top anime or weebs.
Right. But it's like Megan Thee Stallion put out hers, and I'm like, I'll spend money on this.
Affordable. Not a $300 hoodie.
Not a $3 bag.
Yeah.
Yes, Jesus.
But enough of deflecting and talking about something that makes us happy.
We tried. We really would have kept on talking about Zuko.
We actually should probably do a streetwear episode. That would be really cool.
I would like that. You know what? I'm gonna write it down. Because we kind of hit on streetwear and anime's influence in streetwear when we had our Megan Thee Stallion episode. So like, I like the idea of getting to expand that a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes, that will be coming to y'all, sometime in the future.
But put it into the idea bin.
Yep, in the idea bin. But we cannot put this off any longer. Let's get into Japan Sinks, and I will read
specifically Japan Sinks 2020.
Yes, 2020. Shortly after the Tokyo Olympics in 2020, a major earthquake hits Japan. Amidst the chaos, siblings Ayumu and Go of the Muto household begin to escape the city with their family of 4. The seeking Japanese archipelago. Thank you, archipelago. However, relentlessly pursues the family. Plunged into extreme conditions, life and death, and the choice of meeting and parting in the face of dreadful reality, the Muto siblings believe in the future and acquire the strength to survive with utmost effort. Whew. That sounds a lot more positive.
Yep.
Than what you actually experienced. Because like that's an accurate summary, but at the same time, when they say like life and death, they do mean life and death.
Yeah, which we should put a giant, like big giant blinking letters. This is as always, this is a spoiler cast, but I would say for Japan Sinks 2020 specifically, any of the things we are about to talk about will spoil this for you. Mm-hmm. And that's because the deaths have so much emotional impact and come out of like nowhere.
Yup.
So Nisha, would you recommend that they watch this anime?
I would say don't watch it all in one go. With like I did. Pace yourself. I watched it literally by myself in like my new condo, which was probably the worst idea to watch this alone. So watch it with friends. Or pace yourself. Because I think I was just like messaging you and saying like, Kate, I got to this episode and then oh my God, this happened. So pace yourselves is what I'm saying, but watch it. I think it's very good.
And this also has I think you should watch it from me as well for all the things Nisha just said, so I won't repeat it. So if you plan on watching Japan Sinks or Japan Sinks 2020 and taking our word for it, pause this episode, go watch it, and then come back. That's your warning. Or spoil yourself, but seriously, like this, I don't think that I've watched anything recently that has gotten me that bad with the deaths.
Yeah, I would say the same. And like I mentioned earlier, like the only anime that's hit me this hard, I mean, the top 3 anime that have hit me like so emotionally, Berserk. And then you have Devilman Crybaby, Grave of the Fireflies, and this one. This is now added to my list of like some of the anime that have literally made me cry or like at least feel a lot of sadness or different emotions. And this one wins. as we mentioned, the same people who animated Devilman Crybaby did this anime. It's from Science Saru. That is the anime house that did it. And yeah, it's also directed by Masaaki Yuasa. And
who
also
also did Devilman Crybaby.
yep. So like if you've seen Devilman Crybaby, you know, bless your heart that you, and I mean that in a good way, not in the southern way.
Yeah.
But like seriously, if you made it through Devilman Crybaby, I think you can make it through this. But I will say I think this one hits harder than Devilman Crybaby.
I think it does too. Yeah, I completely agree. And I will say it's funny because if you look at Science Saru's like catalog of what they do, they have like Devilman Crybaby, a whole bunch of Shin-chan, and then like Japan Sings 2020. And I'm like, whoa. Let's hold on for a second. Y'all just like, I'ma wreck you. Here's some funny Shin-chan. I'ma wreck you again. Like
you gotta have
is
a palate
that
cleanser.
What they do?
You gotta have a palate cleanser, and their palate cleanser is Shin-chan, apparently.
Apparently.
Oh, that's so funny. I did not know that.
Yep. I looked up their stuff. It is in fact a lot of Shin-chan, including movies to buffer when they're, you know, creating soul-destructing anime.
Yep.
Or adapting and or reviving, because Devilman Crybaby in 2018 was a reboot of the original one from the 90s, and Japan Sings 2020 is an adaptation of a science fiction book. So that's also kind of cool when you look at that in perspective. But I completely agree. Like I think Devilman Crybaby is up there in anime that have like just completely fucked me up, like from start to finish. And but it is for very, very different reasons. Like part of it, like I would say like Devilman Crybaby's weight is like half emotional, half shock. Like this is just utterly violent. Oh my God, what am I watching? And then the other half is like, oh my God, I am so sorry for this character. Whereas Japan Sings 2020 is half, oh my God, I am so sorry for this character, and half, oh my God, what would I do if that happened to me and that was somebody I had to watch? Like it was, I think it's because even though Japan Sings 2020 is, it's sci-fi in a sense, but it's very, it's grounded in that disaster subgenre, and there's something about that, especially when we live in a world that is on fire like it is right now, that it just somehow hits real hard of like, okay, what would I do if I was escaping with my family? Because in a lot of disasters, I watch a lot of disaster movies mainly because it's my husband's favorite genre. Like he likes watching bad disaster movies, and so I'm kind of used to it. But watching this one, there's always at least certain characters that are protected from death in disaster movies, or like your entire crew will survive and one person will die at the end. Here, like everything goes wrong. Like everything from the jump, everything's going wrong.
Which I think at least it tells you what kind of anime it's going to be.
Yeah.
Because I guess I think it's because of how the story starts off. Is the family, they're separated when it starts. Like the mom's on an airplane coming back into town. The kids the daughter's at like a track and field practice. Her brother's at home and the dad's at work. So like literally the worst situation as a family when you think of like when a disaster hits. And your first thoughts are like, I need to find my family. I need to regroup. And I couldn't help thinking, but like, what if it was my family? Like, I'd be having a lot of my family about like what time to be to place. So we're on time. Like, I want to make sure we get our reservations. But it's like, if my mom doesn't I've had situations where like, if my mom doesn't pick up her phone and like, if I call her, I'm like, okay, I'm waiting for 10 minutes. I'm gonna call her back. And she doesn't pick up her phone again. And then she doesn't answer my text. I'm like, are you dead? Because it's that panic of like not knowing where people are. But like in this situation, it's like they can't get in touch with each other. The brother like gets like cut on the eye or like on the top of his head and like gets hurt in the earthquake. Because to set it up, the show, it starts off with an earthquake. So you see each character is like in their own settings. And it's like, that was an interesting thing I learned, though I didn't know an airplane would be affected by an earthquake, but learned that. and like with the mom and her airplane. So it's like that's how we're introduced to all the characters. I will say, like, the reason why I say I know this anime tells you what it is from the jump, literally 7 minutes in, and the daughter's entire track team dies. And she is like, and I don't blame her. Like, her body goes into survival mode. She has to escape. And like, what does a teenage girl who just witnessed, like, is knocked out and wakes up to see her entire team, like, basically die because of, like, they were underground in a locker room, I think.
Yeah.
So
they essentially get like crushed as things fall, like whether it was the lockers or like the rubble. Like it's, and the thing is too, you're right, because that scene, not only does it set up of like, okay, they just killed an entire group of teenage girls, it's also the fact that the moment where Ayuma, is it Yuma or Yumo? Ayumu. Okay.
You at the end, yeah.
Oh, that's right. Okay. When Ayumu has her moment of like, I have to take off, she watches one of her teammates like writhing in pain with like blood. And it's one of those things where you just very quickly realize that like, oh, this is going to go there. And then I would say the next part that goes there is the dad, because we have this beautiful reunion, and they essentially, the first episode is really them getting together and like finding out. And then I think the second one is where they take off and they're walking down the street and they're, just, surviving, and they have like this little montage where they're having fun and stuff is close to where it was because their dad is like uber prepared for this. He's catching and killing boar. He's providing for them. You're like, oh, yo, he's gonna be great. They got both their parents.
They got both parents.
But in typical anime fashion, you can't keep both your parents for long. Nope. And Ayumu, who I actually hate as a character, so much, decides that she wants yams.
So she doesn't want to eat a pig that she saw slaughtered, which, no offense, but also offense is like, bitch, the world is crumbling and on fire. You eat what's in front of you.
She was being a picky eater, and her dad being a great dad and having usually picked Japanese yams, were like, okay, well, I think it was yams. I think it was yams, right? It's yams, yeah.
Because even they come to the fence and it says, like, he sees the vine and he's like,
oh yeah, he's like, this is the yams. And they get excited because they love their dad's yam curry. And of course, nobody pays attention to any of the signs that are there, and they're mostly covered up by vines. And the dad goes and he's digging and he's yelling back, telling her how good the yams look. And then Ayumu sees a sign that she uncovers, and it says no digging for yams because there are landmines.
And it's like, as soon as she sees it, turns her head, and it is by sheer luck her brother did not die, because his mom called, said she needed help. And the dad sends him off to the dad and like to the mom. And like, it's within that, like the next few minutes that they all hear an explosion. And then Studio Science Saru decides we get to see a dismembered hand fly through the air.
And fall on top of the food preparation. With the ring.
I don't know. I just know I tweeted out, and I decided just to tweet out the first few episodes, and I was just like, well, I thought episode 1 was bad. Not bad in a, like, bad, this is a bad show, but like, as in like, ooh, no. I was like, wow, episode 2, this is how y'all really gonna take us here. And they did. So at that point, I decided to reside in the fact that no one is safe at any time in this series. And like, from that point on, Ayumu just gets worse as far, like, and I say
she's
worse,
a fucking brat.
A brat. A little
Like,
brat. I hated her so much. And I'm like, I know this is because of like, I say this is good writing that I did not like her so much because she's a spoiled teenage girl. But at the same time, like the whole arguing with her mom, like not understand, like the mom literally just saw her husband's hand fly off into the air, and she knows her husband is dead, but she knows she has to keep moving forward. Yep. And she is trying to keep the group to keep moving forward. And Ayamu decides that she's going to have a temper tantrum, like, you don't care that he's dead. Bitch, what?
Yeah.
It's her husband. We all can't crumble and like be depressed and stay here where it's not safe and decide to have a breakdown right now. Like, you can have your breakdown, but you got to get up and keep moving. It's not because the mom doesn't care. It is literally because the mom, which, we could save the twist for last about the mom, which I
love her so much. I love Miro is probably like I love her because she reminds me of my mom.
Yes.
Like she's very caring and she's very loving, but at the same time, she's going to push you and she pushes, like, you don't really get to see her cry. And it goes to Yumu's point where like Yumu's like, you just don't care. And this is the first time that she brings it up, but she also brings it up later on in the series as well, where she like gets mad at her mom saying like, well, you just want to get over dad. That's why you don't want to like go to a medium to talk to him, or you don't ever. And it's this larger thing where it's just like, no, she's a mom. And in order to protect you, she doesn't get to feel pain right now. Mm-hmm. She doesn't get to feel sad. She doesn't get to grieve, because if she stops and does that, who is going to take care of you?
Right. She doesn't shut down, which like, I applaud her as an anime mom, because like there's not many anime moms. Like there's some great anime moms, you know,
there ain't that
many exactly, because they usually die. Which fits the brand. She is a great anime mom because like she doesn't get to grieve in the way that like in front of her children. She doesn't get to shut down. Whereas like I think we've seen enough anime where we see a mom who is in grief or who is like going through pain, and they take that out on the child, and the child suffers from the mom's grief and pain, and that's not fair. And I mean, everyone deals with grief differently, but like hers, I think she's truly not, she denies herself that time to grieve for such a long time in this series that it's just like, wow, she's a very strong-willed character, but it's not like she's one-dimensional and just a strong female character. It's because she has to keep moving if they want to live.
She has a reason to be. And they show you that not just when she has like this come to Jesus moment with the Yumu, but like later on in the series, but they show it like in all of her actions. Like it's always her daughters first or her kids first.
Yes.
And I mean, from there, I mean, everything, I mean, like they do fairly well without the dad for a little bit, but then Ayumu throws another fucking tantrum. Like I like, it just pisses me off that like halfway through the series, Ayumu decides that like she doesn't like the fact that her sister's giving attention to this. I forget his name. What's the glasses guy?
Haru. Yeah,
Haru,
and I don't know who is that. Their sister? I was confused.
Namani was her sister, I thought.
Oh, I didn't know.
Is she?
I thought they were just like a neighbor.
Oh,
I think they
she
called
may not
her
be.
sis. The subtitles called her sis. Like, you know, I thought that was just like an honorary thing, like Big Sister Nanami.
Oh, yeah. Okay, never mind. Yeah, that's probably what it is. Yeah. But she gets jealous that Nanami is showing attention to Haru, and it's just frustrating because then she just like sits on the floor and is like, Namani, I have to use the restroom, come with me. And then Namani dies. Like, homegirl's like straight up walking and just fucking collapses, and you learn that there's fucking like because there's like it wasn't just one earthquake. Like Japan is suffering a series of earthquakes because essentially, literally, as the title says, Japan is sinking. Like it has something to do, like they actually do a really good job of explaining it, but I was too traumatized by all the death to pay attention to the science behind why Japan is
because
sinking.
the actual science behind it would actually, I think, traumatize me more of like
That's
the
fair.
idea of like, oh
Of
God,
a land
like
mass sinking.
Yeah, like the idea of it actually sinking, like, oh God, okay.
Yeah.
Whew. But yeah, that scene, because all you hear is a thud and she's dead. And it's like,
and they keep showing her fucking body. They just
do.
keep showing her.
And it's because it's like, it's just toxic gases. Like, I can't remember what it's called, but like, this is actually, it's an actual thing because there's places like in mountains where like if you hike, and this is the thing, like I learned this from Dr. Stone, shout out to the manga from Viz Media. But like, there's this thing in certain environments in mountains, and like there's signs when you go hiking in Japan where like you should not bend over to tie your shoes. Like, make sure your shoes are tied well, because there are certain areas where there are these noxious gases that are just like at below your knees. So usually, you know, like not that high up, but like children could probably breathe them in. But like the second you bend over and you take in one deep breath, you die. So it's like, and you don't smell the gas. It's like, it is like, it does not have a smell. So like they literally were walking down to go behind a bush, and because Nanami was leading the way, she just drops first. And it's because she's the one that's lower. And it is only because then we meet Kite. And Kite comes in and he's like, better not go down there. That's why she's dead. You're lucky. Which is dang.
It's so bad.
So bad. What are your thoughts on Kite?
I love Kite. Kite was my favorite fucking character. I want to marry Kite. Kite did not have to do nearly any of the things that he did. I was very sad and then very happy at the end. Kite is just great. Kite is great. I love Kite. And I mean, like, Kite is that character just like in Devilman Crybaby, where I was like, this could go one of two ways. He's a YouTuber. He's literally just a YouTuber.
He is just a YouTuber. It's like, are you supposed to be like, you know, what's one of the famous YouTubers, like Logan Paul or Jake Paul?
Don't
which I was
put that
like,
on him.
I'm
Don't
not
put that on Kite.
him. No, but when they kept on talking about he's just a YouTuber, I'm like, oh, don't let that be his character. But then you learn that's not his character, and that's great. Which oh, okay, I have to ask this question because I still don't understand with the ending. Is Kite non-binary? Because there's like a scene at the end where there's a girl, long hair, wearing a skirt, looks like a younger Kite.
Oh no, I think he's trans.
Okay, trans. Okay, I wasn't sure.
Trans.
Okay,
I don't know, but I think he's trans.
Okay,
because his pronouns throughout the entire thing is he.
Right. So it's trans. So, my bad. Not non-binary. But that was my whole thing of just like, was that their child or was this a flashback? And then I realized
that was the first thing that I thought. I was like, oh shit, did Kite and and Yumu, who I hate, like God, I was not. Like, but yeah, no, I think I think so. There are two things, right? So the first is that he is trans, and the second is that that's just how they drew a younger male character, which happens, and maybe it's because I've been reading too much yaoi, but like that happened. Like some of like one of the tropes in anime is having like younger boys like be mistaken for girls. Right. That's how you get the whole like, and I fell in love with my best friend. But he was not a girl type things in yaoi, and so I don't want to like attribute that here. But I like looking at his bio on the wiki and stuff, it doesn't seem like there's no confirmation either way, but he is a he.
It's just like the child literally just like has this moment, like realization on their face. They're flying a kite with like Kite's logo on it. Yeah. And like which I think like is probably where he got the name Kite. And then they kick off the skirt they're wearing. And I was just like, oh,
that's probably, yeah. So I think that may be what it is then. Because he's only 18 and everything describes him as male. So I'm looking at all the wiki. His pronouns in it were male. So that's probably what it is. They probably just didn't go in depth, but I would think that he's a trans man.
Right. And that's
which is
like
really cool. And I'm like happy
cool.
you brought that up because I didn't catch that.
I literally was like, I rewound it. I'm like, is that Kite's child or is that a flashback of Kite? And I realized it's a flashback because we see flashbacks of Ayumu and her brother. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And I like how they don't have to do this big, like, I don't know, this big moment. It's just like,
okay, yeah, he's trans. He's trans.
Oh, you found it?
Yeah, he's trans. Yeah, I looked it up. There's an entire article that says that essentially says many are looking at Kite as a transgender icon.
Oh, nice. But yeah, we love Kite. Kite is awesome.
Again, I want to marry him. I love him so much. He is the character that I cared about more so out of anybody.
Yeah, him and Mari right up there. The mom, Mari, them up there for me. Best characters. And the dad. The children, we will get into them later.
I hate them so much.
I hate them so much. I just really do. And it's, yeah. But anyways, let's continue. But yeah, so Kite comes along and then like we're not gonna like do a recap of every episode, but just like, the major parts that hit. And it's like, then they meet the old man at the store, and there's this whole moment with him, with the old guy and the son, who's like the son. I liked how the son was kind of processing through everything.
The son was way more mature with processing his grief than Yumu was.
Yes, Yumu, I just don't think she wanted everyone to process things the same way that she was. Which I will give her this. I understand she's dealing with a lot of survivor's guilt. First her team, then her dad, and she blames herself for her dad's death, but then she's lashing out and taking that out on other people, which is not fair to the other people that are trying to keep you alive and survive too in a disaster. But yeah, and then there's the stuff with like the cult, and
the cult stuff was weird.
The cult stuff was so weird, and I was just waiting for there to be like a punch bowl situation or something. But it's more like they just do this whole thing where they've made a child a god, and like the woman is the medium or whatever, and they have the ability to talk to the people who are dead. So, there's some shifty things going on. There's a whole bunch of money. There's crookedness. I did think that like this is a weird plot point for us to focus on, but sure, yeah, there's corruption during a disaster. Who's shocked about that? And the cult's main income, I guess, is weed. Which I'm just like, no wonder that one dude was so happy. Daniel, that guy. The white boy. The white boy, wherever he was from, he just seemed too happy for me. I'm like, what?
Which actually, we should talk a little bit about the fact that not everybody is Japanese in this cast.
Yes, we should.
It's really interesting because Japan Sings 2020, it has this its ultimate theme is the ability of being able to, it uses the idea of like Japan is like the land of the rising sun. Damn it.
Mm-hmm. You're good.
I don't know if you want to mark down or to cut that out.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Where Japan is the land of the rising sun, and even though it sets, when it sinks, it's gonna come back up because that's what happens after a sunset. And it's a really powerful story of perseverance and moving through all of the scariness and the trauma and coming out the other end, and each character does it in very different ways, and each character remembers that trauma in different ways. But I think one of the larger elements too is that it has this really powerful narrative that you can map on to Japan specifically. And I think because of Japan's own history with earthquakes and the tsunami, it rings really powerful. But the other thing that it does is it really identifies and critiques the hyper-nationalism that happens in Japan with pure-blood Japanese. And it's one of those things that you get to investigate because the main family is a mixed family. The mom is Filipina, and then even Kite is Estonian. He's not Japanese. And then they pick up this other foreign dude. Well, he's not American. He's English, right?
English, yes, yeah. English.
And it's one of these things where you end up in a situation where you get to see how these characters move and survive, and they're surviving this bad world. And then when they go to get help, they're
Mhm.
turned away because of nationalist sentiments, because they only want to save
Mhm.
pure Japanese people. And then thankfully, spoiler alert, those pure blood Japanese folks who are only wanting to rescue Japanese folks die a fiery death on their
Yes.
boat that gets that
Racist.
runs ashore.
Yeah.
So they get what they deserve.
They did. And I was like, when the dude is just like yelling, pure blood Japanese only. I'm like, wow, okay, go in here with it.
Yep.
Let's go there. It's just,
Yep.
and it is like one of those things where like, as we watch, like the different people we meet throughout the series, like the old guy that they meet at the store who dang near tries to kill them. But Kunio, he like has this whole thing where he's just like super prejudiced against foreigners. Like he's very visibly kind of prejudiced towards Kite. But then when he learns that Mari is also like a Filipina, he's like, oh, you're a foreigner too. And it's just like, dude, now is not the time to like not accept help from other people. But it's shining a light that there's this prejudice about, and like there's this nationalism where like people are blatantly racist to other groups.
And I think
like,
and it's something that like people forget a lot too, is just like the nationalism that comes from Japan is a holdover from Japanese imperialism, which was really bad, especially in other Asian countries. And it's really cool to see it kind of it's really cool to see it called out, but it's even cooler to see it as like very very pushed back on, right? Like the only way the only reason Japan comes back at the very end when we have our time jump isn't because of those people. It's because of everybody else. And they even make notes that like now after everything, the returning Japanese citizens have dual citizenships in other places and everything like this. And so it kind of it takes away the idea of Japan as a nation and reinforces it with just like the way somebody can be Japanese in other ways that isn't tied to that. And so, I mean, obviously not my lane, I'm not Japanese, but when I think of like attributing this to other ways that we view identity and how we look at even American identity and the nationalism that we see here, it's a really powerful part of the story that shows that like that part doesn't resurrect and that part doesn't win. Which is it's a really good commentary to have in a series that's pretty much just about the disaster and the survival.
Right. Which, let's get into that a little bit, because I feel like this movie does take disaster genre like to a different level. Like this isn't like whatever that movie was with The Rock, where like like same idea. Bad things are happening everywhere, and we literally see somebody get crushed by like rubble.
Oh, San Andreas?
Yes, San Andreas. Like
I think that movie.
I like it too, but like that one didn't.
Oh wait, no,
hit.
I like Battle Los Angeles. I get those two mixed up all the time. Battle Los Angeles is the one with Aaron Eckhart and aliens and Michelle Rodriguez. Continue.
But yeah, I think of like that's probably one of the last, or like 2012, or like those disaster movies where like bad things are happening, but I don't know if it's just because in the year that we're in right now and we are in a current pandemic, and there's just the realization of like bad things keep happening, and it's not just that like bad things are only happening to this family, it's like bad things are happening everywhere, and it just like you can't help, like we said, like you can't help but think about like what would your family do in that situation. I think part of that right now is because we're in a pandemic, and there are things that we can't escape. Like we can have escapism. Like me, like I love watching anime to like decompress and not worry about all the terrible things going on in the world. But this one, in a way, while I'm watching it like I'm gonna do a bit of a skip here, but like the ending of it is like the main message of it is like there is hope. Like you have to keep trying. You have to keep surviving. You have to keep going. And it's like that's the message the mom tells the kids when she, we can get into it now if you want to get into it, but like the part about the mom's death. But
yeah, go ahead.
When they're on the boat and they basically have decided, like they it's caught on to something. They're able to find it because like they get separated. This is after like the whole nationalism Japanese people thing happened. And the mom is like telling the kids, hey, I guess like the son didn't know, but the daughter knew. And she tells him, hey, go, I have a heart thing, like condition, and I have a battery that I use, and my battery's almost up. And she basically tells them all this, and it's her, and she gives like these final words to them, and like why she named them the names that they have, and like inspires them, like, I want you to keep living, I want you to keep going forward, I want like, and it's just like, why is she such a great mom? And it's just
it's
because
such
she puts
a
her kids
powerful
first.
scene, and it's such a powerful scene because like it shows that like it shows her as a mom, because like it comes right before her final act, which is like where like the boat they're on is stuck to something, it's tied to something, and and so she's like, I was a professional swimmer, I'm the one who's gonna do it, but she does it knowing that her heart can't keep up with it, her battery's out. She tells them that she's already having complications, and so we get to see that part of her where she will physically do anything for them. But the other part that I really like is that scene where she tells them their names, because it's another part of motherhood where like it's not just doing everything for your child, it's teaching your child that they can do everything and they can push past, and encouraging them to do that and setting them up to do that. And their names, and it's handled really well in the last episode where she talks about, my name is Ayuma, that's what my mom named me, and it's because I can keep moving. And it's one of those things, like I think back to a lot of like the conversations I've had with my mom, like when I was really young, like I was in elementary school, my mom had the conversation that you're going to get told you're going to get told no a lot, and you're not going to agree with it, and you're going to not get what you deserve, and it's going to make you angry. And she had to have that conversation just because of how like how she knew the world would treat me because it had treated her. But her main thing wasn't be angry at the world or stop. It was, don't ever stop. When you feel angry, you take that anger and you channel it into doing something. You channel it into doing the thing they say that you can't do. You channel it into getting over the obstacle instead of quitting and letting it stop you. And it's a really powerful thing that I think it's a powerful thing that like my dad was like that in sports, but like with my mom, it was a much different thing. When my mom had that conversation with me, it was about life. It was just an understanding that she's told me before. I think when I graduated college, my mom was like, I'm done with you now. And the reason I'm done with you now is because you've shown me over the course of like these last 20 something years.
Right.
I did what I had to do as a mom. Like, you are overcoming the things that are near you. And like that to me, she told me that then, and then she told me when we bought our condo, and it was one of those things where like, that's the most proud I can make my mom, is to let her know that she did a good job and she raised somebody who doesn't quit. And that's why I think that this is probably one of the most powerful examples of motherhood that I've ever seen. And I think it's because I see so much of my mom in her. Yeah.
No, I mean, like,
teary-eyed, misty-eyed.
I know,
I'm just like,
it's
man.
fine. You're making me teary-eyed because, like, we talk about, like, how, like, at this point, me and you need a running list of, like, the things we have in common because it gets scary sometimes.
Yeah.
But, like, ironically, like, I think one time I figured out, like, I was supposed to almost be born the same day you were. I was just born a month early.
Yep.
But it's, like, also, like, very similar reasons, like you said, for your mom is, like, the reason why I see my mom and Mari also is just, like, my mom has this thing with me where she knows how to motivate me by telling me I can't do something. Not that my mom actually, it's like this inside thing with us.
Yeah.
And it's like, because she instilled in me that like I was going to have to work harder, like as a Black woman. And like we've talked about this, like as women of color, we have to work harder to get what we deserve. And even then we're not getting what we truly deserve. And my mom has always instilled, like, it's this like reverse psychology thing for me. Like, she knows that I get motivated when people tell me I can't do things because that makes me work harder. And it's like hearing that speech that Mari gives to her children is just like, it summarizes up like why this anime put us through so much.
Yeah.
And it's because like life is going to be hard. Things are going to be burning everywhere. Things are going to get hard, but you have to keep moving forward. We can't all just stop and live in despair and stay in the dark place. We have to keep striving forward to get to where we want to be. And you have to make your own future. Yeah. You have to pave your own path. And you're right. Like, this is one of the best examples of motherhood, because like she truly puts her children first every step of the way.
Yeah.
And it's like, because she knows she's going to die sooner rather than later. And she chooses that if I'm going to die, I'm going to do it by saving my children. And I can't say we see that. I mean, like, there's great examples of motherhood in media and everything, but it's just like, I think this is just such a great example of motherhood.
Yeah.
And
because I think what we usually get in media is the mom sacrificing herself for the kid. And we're like,
right.
Oh yeah, she did what a mom's supposed to do. But
right.
what we don't get is a mom doing that after teaching her kid that they can do it themselves. And I think that's the crux. Like that, like maternal sacrifice is thrown everywhere. And so like I was kind of like expecting it to happen, but that conversation where it's like, no, it's not about my sacrifice here. It's about all the sacrifices that I made for you before this point that made you who you are. That's why I know that you guys can survive, and I'm going to do this now to just, because she says a line like she swam her whole life for that moment. Like her entire life was to save her children.
Yep.
And it's just really powerful. And because like I kind of like how your mom tells you can't do things. Whenever I complain to my mom about something, like from when I was little, my mom was like, "You can quit." I was like, "What?" It's like, "No, you can quit. I will never tell you to not quit. You can quit."
Yep.
But think about what quitting is going to make you feel.
My mom literally, I did not want to go to this basketball camp one time, and my mom got so mad at me. And I realize now, like, obviously, like probably a year later, and like, she's like, if you want to be better, you need to be able to stand on this cart with these other girls. And I'm like 10. And I just like, I don't want to be here. I'd rather be home, and I'd rather just be watching cartoons. I don't want to be here. You didn't ask me if I wanted to be here. And I was just like, wow, I was a really fucking spoiled brat. My mom sacrificed for me to be here to get better. And it's like halfway through the camp, and she's like, if you want to quit, be a quitter. Fine, you can't do it. And then that's like when it sparked in me of like, I can't quit because my mom made sacrifices for me to be here, to get better, to be a better athlete, to better myself. And if I quit, that's a slap in my mom's face.
Oh yeah. And I think that it's something that women of color feel, and like people from immigrant communities feel like so much harder than other people, because like our moms are literally they're not just fighting the fight that they fought when they went through this, they're fighting it for us. And every time they see us struggle, they're going like, they have been where we were, even if we didn't do the same types of things. Right. And I also think it's something that like people from really poor, like low income families deal with too. Cause it was the same thing with me. Like, I think mine was soccer. I had begged to get to go into CYO soccer, and it was co-ed because at that time we were all young enough to do it.
Right.
And my mom paid like $400 for me to play CYO soccer. And I got knocked down by this boy, and I was like, I'm not going to play anymore. Like, I can't do it. Like, they're bigger than me. I can't do this. He's like, You can quit then. Quit. But when you quit, you're going to pay me back those $400 because I did this for you to be better. And if you're not going to be better, then you can just work off the money. And it sounds harsh, and it's something that like I hate seeing. And this is going off topic of like the anime, but like I hate seeing these things online where it's like, normalize quitting, be okay. Like, and I'm just like, it's such a privileged idea that you can just quit, because it's not like that for a lot of us. Like, just like taking a day off. And then I'm not saying that people need to work themselves to the bone. Like, no, we need to learn how to value our time and self-care. But we also have to realize, like, for people like us, we have to work harder. And so quitting for us is just, it's a bigger thing. It knocks us back way farther.
Much more. I agree with that also, because like there's a big difference between quitting and not trying, or like accept like you did everything you could do and then you failed at it. You can learn from failure. You
Oh
can
yeah,
improve from failure.
that's the thing. That's the crux of it. That's the crux of it, because it's not, because like for me, my mom never, like if I did something and I failed, my mom never treated me like crap because of it. She would tell me like, you can do better. How do we make sure that when you go back there, you go better? How do we make sure that when you go back, you get those extra 7 points so that it's this? But it was never about like there is. Quitting is saying, I can't do this before you even fail. Failing is believing in yourself, doing it. And okay, you get knocked down, but you get up and you try again. And if you fail again, okay, what didn't work? How do I change it? And like, there's this conflation of the two that is just like, I just think is very telling of a person. Like for me personally.
Right.
Because like, I don't know.
We can get into it. We will make that another episode, because I think it will be awesome of just like anime and failure.
Exactly. Well, because that's something we see a lot in shonen, right? Like shonen isn't like, there are so many times our shonen heroes, it's not about them quitting. It's about them getting their asses beat.
Yep.
And then learning how to come back from that. Bakugo getting captured by the League of Villains is probably one of the most pivotal moments for him as a character, because it was the first time that he had to experience being a loser. He was the first time he realized that he could not protect himself and that he didn't fit into this larger, like, this larger narrative that he had constructed for him. And that's important because it's failure. But it's
and
not
then he works
quitting.
harder. Motivates him, and it's just, you know what, anime and failure. That's we're gonna have a discussion,
and that's why Mari's like. I think that's why the theme of this anime just hits me so hard, is because that's the entire thing. Because nobody quits. Nobody ever quits in this anime.
They don't. You're right. And like, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, good.
Because like I wanted to hit on like the last two characters and like I think their big sacrifices, or like the things that they did. But like you have Haru and Kite, and like this is like, you know, basically the end of it. And it's like there's this moment, like there's this rap session they all have, which I think I just need to probably listen to it in Japanese, because I was kind of like, I don't feel it as hard, but okay, I'm listening to the words that y'all are saying, but they kind of have this like come together. I'm like, yeah, you're all mad and this and that, like talk it out, rap it out. So I might have to listen to it Japanese, but
I think you have to, because that was the effect that I had from the Devilman Crybaby one. If you listen to Devilman Crybaby in English, it makes no fucking sense.
Makes no sense.
But if you listen to Japanese, you can feel like the actual
feelings they're trying to convey. But like it's after that moment, because like everyone's like frustrated, people are dead, they feel like they're coming up with a plan to like, you know, we got to do this. And so they make this plan to go get this research data from the doctor that basically predicted all these things. And like, again, it's not a MacGuffin, but it's like it's a plot point or plot device to tell the story. It's this important data that they need to go get. Kite goes and gets it, and he goes into this. I don't even want to explain how like it just lines up where like how they know where things are located and how they get there so quickly. I'm not going to go into all of that because it's anime, but it's the moment where they're basically in the middle of nowhere on like this landmass of rocks, and like these giant waves are coming, and like the flash drive with the data that they need is there, and it gets caught in this little nook in a rock. And the guy Haru, you learn that Haru went through a depressive stage. He was, I believe, an Olympic athlete, or like people knew about him. He's an example of failure.
Yes.
A great example of failure that we will make note of when we talk about him in that anime and failure episode. But he really digs himself out of his depression throughout this series. He's a background character, but he really does pull himself out of it. And he sacrifices himself for like, I'm fast enough, I can do it, I can go get it. And he goes and gets the flash drive. And it's like, it's that thing. He does not quit. And I love the scene of him running there and then running back. And you hear like the flashback of the Olympic stadium as he's running, and like the commentary, so powerful.
It's hard because we get glimpses of it as the what do you call it? We get glimpses of understanding that there's much more for him to do and that he's working towards something and we don't really know what. And one of those is when they're at the cult place and he's running and he's like still too slow and all that.
Right.
And it's a really powerful piece because he times out when the next wave will come. And it's crazy because he knows that if he hits this time, he can survive and make it across.
Yeah.
But he doesn't, and he gets washed away like right before, but he does succeed in that he gets the microchip or the flash drive thing that is going to him that they needed to get, that he throws it to Ayuma. And it's the moments, it's that moment where you also kind of realize too, like, for me, like sometimes what you give is enough, even if it is still failing. And it's really powerful. And like, that's with the side character. And it's with the side character that really has no meat on his bones and not like, not how he looks, but like has no like meat on his, like he's not fleshed out as a character for like half the series.
Yeah. No, it's not until he like starts, like when they get to the cult farm and he starts to really come back to himself. And I do think part of that is because Nanami's death kind of pushed him, because Nanami, I think he saw her as a big sister, whereas like Ayuma was jealous of him getting attention because I think she likes him. Whatever, it's nonsense. But at the cult farm, he starts to like finding more of the drive to live and like pushing himself, not just to like, you know, following along with other people. He's actually contributing more.
Yeah.
And then we have Kite, who I'm just gonna say, really thought he was going to pull a big move at first until we find out like what his sacrifice is and why he doesn't give up.
Yeah, because he straight up tells them like, it's been fun, guys. Bye.
Because it's like they come full circle back to the place or near the place that they met him, and he finds his paraglider or whatever. And he, unbeknownst to the children, he has a plan, and it's like, it's got to work. I'll make it work. And he makes basically makes a rigged up paraglider to connect to the network, but if he can get high enough and hold on to the thing. And he does it, but like watching him, like you realize it's cold as shit.
That animation was fucking painful to watch because he's going through an airstream. You can see the frost forming on his hands, and the way they animate his hands, he can't like close them. And so he reaches up with his face and grabs it with his mouth. And there's something that happens like in that entire episode where every time he finds something or every time he succeeds, he just says, I was born lucky. And I think that that's even more important now that I realize he's a trans character too, because like it just showcases how like no matter what, like he just trusts that this is going to go well, and he doesn't even think about the second outcome. And it has a lot to do with like also this mentality that you build up as somebody who does face adversity. It's like, I can't think about what happens if this doesn't work. It has to work, and I'm going to make sure it does. And that's what Kite does. And it's why he's my baby, and I love him so much.
Just like literally shot. I mean, throughout the series, he like he slowly gets up to my favorite, but it's like this solidifies him being my favorite character.
Yeah.
And I'm just so glad that he made it, because like,
girl, I was struggling because
I was so struggling.
I was so sad that he was going to die, because ultimately you end up, and we didn't even cover all the major like things, because there's a few other big moments that happen as well.
Right.
But the ending, the very last episode, and the title of the episode is called Resurrection, and it's about what happens when they finally get that rescue after Kite is able to get the internet connection, which then locates rescuers via GPS ping, and they're able to save them. And then you see what each of them is going through a little bit, and Ayuma's dumb ass went through places with two different, like, she worked in a hospital and she couldn't say, yo, my leg hurts. Look at my
Not
cut.
once.
Disinfect it.
Which, again, we don't really have a time frame, but I'm going to say at least 2 weeks. At least 2 weeks. And she's walking around with this, like, and it's not like it's a bearable scratch and it's healing. No, you literally have a gash on your leg. Ma'am, you can get sepsis walking around into toxic waters. Like, this is just like, because my background working in healthcare, the whole time I'm watching, like, that's a deep gash. I'm surprised she's still walking. I'm surprised she hasn't lost her leg yet. The whole time I'm just thinking, like, you're going to lose a leg. And yeah, you worked at a hospital and you not once did you ever say that, like, hey, I got this deep gash on my leg. Is it okay? No. Because I guess another way is, like, there's adrenaline that we could blame that on, of, like, why she didn't, like, feel as much pain. But adrenaline
Not in every
for 2 weeks.
situation. Yeah. I'm like, in
Right.
some of the other ones where it pushes her to run, yeah, sure. But, like, you were literally in a hospital helping a bedridden man. You were essentially his nurse.
Yeah.
You, like, yeah.
It's a lot. But persevering, I'll give her that.
Yeah.
You know, she achieves her dream of, like, I'm sure they say the timestamp of the year, but she is, like, competing in the Paralympics.
Yeah, because it's in 2028. So
Okay.
because it's 8 years after,
Right.
That's the flash forward.
Right. So, and it's, like, it's powerful because, like, I love how we see Go on the national team, and, like, it just, like, it really hits home because
For
it's like,
esports.
for esports, and it's just, look at the little baby. And, like, again, Go wasn't my favorite, but Go at least was not a Yuma.
Yeah, he was not a Yuma. But I think that the most powerful part for that last one is the first time you see Go in this aged up state is you see him at the bottom of a pool sitting and the camera is far away and then they zoom into where the screen is just a close-up of his face, and his dad had put staples in his eyebrow because of where it had broken, and he had left them in the whole time and even had them after when he was home. And now that he's older, you see that he's actually gotten his eyebrow pierced, and it's like this nice callback to everything else. I'm like, oh my God, this sweet baby boy.
Yeah, he grew up.
Yeah, and then Ayuma, because she does get sepsis, she does end up with a bone infection, and they end up having to take her leg. And it's this moment where it could be, because the last thing her mom asked her, not the last thing, but one of the things her mom asked her to do when she was supposed to go on a boat, which we then find out that boat was just filled with dead people being eaten by birds, because that didn't go well.
Yeah, her coach is dead on there.
Yep. Was for her to never stop having fun and never stop, not to stop doing track and field no matter what. And so when you find out that her leg is going to be amputated, you think, oh, wow. And a lot of that comes from, like, just how a lot of people who haven't had to deal with any sort of disability automatically sees it as disqualifying everything else. But then it ends with this really triumphant moment where you see, no, she's still competing and she's still doing what she loves. And that's when you have the monologue about what it means to rise again. And I think that's it's such an amazing series that I do think it hurts you watching it because of how bad the world is right now. But because of its themes, it very much feels like what we needed now.
I agree. It is definitely, I think it's the message that a lot of us needed now during this time. Because as much as we feel like the world is burning and everything bad is happening all at once, I think, and you can, like, this is just me personally as being, like, a Black woman, I feel like I have to hold on to hope, like, throughout my life. Like, I don't, and, like, going back to what you said, like, I don't feel like giving up is an option until I've exploited all of my options, until I've tried my hardest. I don't give up. But, like, a big thing for my family, growing up Christian, but, like, also with, like, the values my family has, like, really driven in us is that you have to keep trying. As my dad says, somebody's got to drive the car. Like, we don't get to stop. And it's like, it's the idea that we're striving towards something at the end. Like, it will not always be this bad. It will not always be terrible. And like, I like the message that like you said, like like Japan will rise again. And like her rising again, her brother, like it's like the whole story, it really is very inspirational. It takes you through a lot of feelings, but the core message of just like, you have to keep moving.
Yeah. And I think that that's also something that like, I mean, again, like I really identify with as well. Like, it's kind of like if I was okay with quitting and I didn't think that there was something to fight for, I would not be where I am. Like,
Right.
And I think that that's something that people who, whether you're poor, whether you're a person of color, whether you're like, when you face those types of things in your life, when you don't have the privilege to just sit down and not fight, because that like very much, and I don't think it's something we talk about enough, is that like being burnt out is a privilege sometimes. Like being able to say that you're burnt out is a privilege. Being able to say that you give up is a privilege, because there are so many people like us out there who that can't be an option.
You don't get to quit.
Exactly. And so for me, like seeing something like this, it's seeing my own experiences, my own identity, and just seeing it really showcased and loved and lauded. Because like, I'm not gonna lie, like I hate a lot of the Twitter quote unquote discourse around self-care and stuff, because a lot of it is driven by privileged white women, if we're completely honest, and a lot of it doesn't take into account the experience of people, and specifically women like us. And I just think seeing this type of series helps me feel like, okay, it is still okay to have this mentality.
Yes. I just have a quick story that I have to add, because like this literally reminds me. So I think I've mentioned on here, but you know the story. Like I played basketball. I tore my ACL twice playing basketball. And my dream was to play in college. So like, I think that's another reason why this resonates with me, is like seeing a Ayumu at the end still like competing. But I distinctly remember my freshman year, after I thought everything was fine, I tweaked my knee and I thought I was done. Like I would never play again. And I'm like coming back to my dorm, I'm on crutches. And this girl who I considered a friend at the time, she was a white girl, which again, it's not like we're not friends anymore because she's a white girl. It's because of what she said next.
Yeah.
And like, she sees me with my knee wrapped up in ice. And like, I'm like, yeah, like I'm already down. I already feel frustrated. I'm already angry. And then she says like, you should just quit.
Yeah.
And I snapped. I'm pretty sure I blacked out there, but I do remember. And I remember the saying, it's like, I don't get to quit.
Yeah.
I don't get to just quit. And I just like screamed and I cried and I went to my dorm room, but I just said like, I don't get to quit. I'm here on a scholarship. I'm here because I've worked hard. It is my dream to play in college because this is the way I will pay for school. So I don't get to quit. And then like, she apologized later on, but I just didn't see her as the same kind of friend after that.
Yeah. It shows a complete disrespect of who you are as a person.
Yeah.
And like that she doesn't understand that like me not playing is literally losing all the money that is getting me here right now.
Yeah. And I had to explain that to her in a way, like afterwards, like after I had calmed down because I was so angry, but like she understood it. She's like, I'm sorry. That was very insensitive for me to say. And it's like, yeah, I could redshirt for a year, but I'm like, yeah, I can redshirt for a year and I can stay here and I won't lose my scholarship right now. But will I come back the next year? Will I keep my scholarship? Yeah. That was all I could think about. Like, am I done? Will I finish college? And like, it didn't connect for her. But like, you're right. Her mentality was, you could just quit and you don't have to play anymore and your knee won't hurt anymore. I'm like, in addition to the academic scholarships, I would not be able to be here without the athletic scholarship. Like I need both of these things to be here. So I don't, and that's like something I think I tell you, and I think that's like why our friendship is so strong. Like on days where we're frustrated, just like, we don't get to quit. Yeah. It's like that thing, like me telling myself that is just like, I don't get to quit, but like, that's why I'm going to push harder and like reach our goals. And I'm rambling now, but like this anime.
Anime does a lot. It does a lot. And it's good. It's really good, and I want other people to watch this, and I want to hear what everybody thinks, and I want to see if those things that really resonated with us resonate with them as well.
Yes. Oh, so good. All right. I think we've said all that we can. Like we haven't asked this question in a long time, but Kate, did they have to?
They did. I needed this.
We all
needed this so bad.
Oh man. Alrighty. Well, you want to tell them where they can find us?
Yes, you can find us on Twitter at DYHT_pod. If you want to support our podcast community and our website, butwhythoughpodcast.com, you can head on over to patreon.com/butwhythough, BUTWHYTHO. There you will find our 10-minute mini podcast where we talk about really, really trashy manga for $1. So if you want to help support our amazing network and our amazing community, head on over there. And you can find me personally at omemithrandir.
And you can also find me personally on Twitter at LA_NEY_SHA. That's LaNeysha. And with that, was Japan Sinks 2020 the message we all needed and we didn't know we needed this year? Well, you go watch Japan Sinks. If you do, pace yourselves. Please, please, please pace yourselves and watch a chaser. Go watch a Whisker Away after you watch this. And what will Kate and I watch next? Find out next time on Did You Have To? Bye.
Did You Have To is co-produced by Kate Sanchez and LaNeysha Campbell. Our intro is done by Dr. Emery Stephen Daniel. And our outro and intro music is by Benjamin Desat, aka Ben Sound.